It was an ordinary Tuesday morning, or so I thought, until a sudden and unshakable gut feeling gripped me. As someone who is introverted, intuitive, and highly sensitive, I've always trusted my instincts. They've rarely steered me wrong. That day, they guided me to our favorite coffee shop, a quaint place my wife Abby and I frequented together. She was supposed to be at work, so seeing her there was the last thing on my mind. But life has a way of unraveling plans in unexpected and painful ways. When I stepped into the coffee shop, the hum of espresso machines and chatter faded into the background as I spotted her. Abby, my wife of 7 years, was seated in a dimly lit corner. She wasn't alone. Sitting across from her, intimately close, was Steve, our neighbor and her best friend's husband. My stomach dropped. A tidal wave of emotions consumed me: rage, betrayal, heartbreak, all at once. The sight of her fingers intertwined with his was unbearable. Without a word, I turned on my heel and left, my hands trembling as I reached for my phone. I called my brother Tom, my voice cracking with anger and pain. My initial impulse was to storm back inside and confront them, but Tom, ever the level-headed one, urged restraint. His advice calmed me enough to think more clearly. If I was going to act, it would need to be measured, deliberate, and unforgettable. Following Tom's advice, I re-entered the coffee shop, but this time with a plan. I slid into a nearby booth, my heart pounding as I discreetly positioned myself to capture the evidence I needed. Abby and Steve, oblivious to my presence, remained engrossed in their intimate exchange. The sight was like a dagger to the heart, but I steeled myself, waiting for the perfect moment. When it came, I snapped a photo. My hands shook as I sent it to Tom, his quick reply of perfect offering me a strange, fleeting sense of validation. Exiting the shop, I took a deep breath, my thoughts already racing toward what I'd do next. For the next few days, I kept my composure around Abby, though it took every ounce of restraint I had. She noticed something was off, asking if I was okay. I brushed it off, attributing it to one of my sensitive days, knowing she'd buy the excuse. Inside, though, I was consumed by the weight of what I'd seen and the evidence I now held. Tom and I began crafting a plan, a form of revenge that would be both public and impossible for Abby and Steve to ignore. It was Tom's idea to use a digital billboard. At first, I thought he was joking, but he was serious. The more I considered it, the more appealing it became. If Abby and Steve had made a mockery of our marriage in secret, why not expose their betrayal for the world to see? We designed a simple slide that mimicked an engagement announcement, but with a damning twist. The image I had taken of Abby and Steve was front and center, accompanied by the message, "Congratulations on your new relationship. Love, Dave." The billboard went live on a Friday evening, strategically placed in a bustling part of the city, right next to popular restaurants and shops. To ensure maximum visibility, I paid extra for prime time slots. To witness the fallout firsthand, Tom and I planned a dinner with Abby and her friend Emily at a steakhouse conveniently located across from the billboard. Seated at the table, I kept my composure as Abby's attention drifted to the glowing screen outside. Her curious glances quickly turned into frozen disbelief. Her face went pale as realization set in. Emily noticed Abby's discomfort and asked if she was okay. Before long, Abby excused herself to the bathroom, clearly shaken. Tom and I exchanged glances, and I could see satisfaction flicker across his face. Emily, still unaware of the billboard's content, followed Abby to check on her. While they were gone, Tom filled Emily in on what had happened. She was shocked, not just by Abby's infidelity but also by the boldness of our revenge. In the bathroom, Emily confirmed Abby's worst fears, showing her a photo of the billboard that a friend had sent her. Abby's humiliation was complete. The rest of the evening was a blur. Emily took Abby home, leaving Tom and me to settle the bill. Back at the house, I prepared the couch for Abby and retreated to the bedroom, locking the door. I needed space to process, space to breathe, and space to sleep, though even that eluded me. By the next morning, news of the billboard had spread across the city. Social media was ablaze with photos and commentary. The betrayal, now a public spectacle, had taken on a life of its own. Abby tried to apologize, but her words fell on deaf ears. I wasn't ready to forgive, not when the pain was still so raw. As the weekend unfolded, the billboard became the talk of the town. People stopped to snap photos and share them online, each post amplifying the humiliation Abby and Steve now faced. By Sunday morning, it seemed everyone knew, and the whispers reached every corner of our social circles. Abby, devastated by the exposure, begged me to take the billboard down. Her embarrassment and regret were palpable, but I stood firm. I had paid for a week, and I wasn't about to let her off the hook that easily. Behind her apologies, I sensed a mix of emotions: shame, guilt, and a desperate hope for reconciliation. But my mind was clouded by memories of her betrayal. I couldn't help but wonder if this was the first time or just the first time I had caught her. The doubts were maddening. On Monday, I took the first real step toward reclaiming control of my life. I filed for divorce. There was no rage or heated argument in the courthouse, just a cold, calm resolve. Abby, realizing the finality of my actions, broke down in tears, but I didn't waver. Her pleas for forgiveness didn't change the fact that trust between us was irreparably broken. By midweek, Steve's wife, Annie, had also filed for divorce. Unlike me, she received no apology or explanation from Steve, who disappeared from the neighborhood entirely. While his absence left a bitter taste, knowing he had to face the consequences of his actions alongside Abby gave me some solace. On Wednesday, Abby managed to convince the advertising company to remove the billboard early. Despite this small victory, the damage was done. Our marriage was over, and her affair had become a public scandal. The fallout extended beyond us. It fractured friendships, strained relationships, and cast a shadow over our community. By the end of the week, Abby moved out of the house and returned to her parents. I found myself alone in the quiet aftermath of the storm. For the first time in years, I had space to reflect, to process what had happened, and to begin rebuilding. While some might call my revenge excessive, I found a strange sense of closure in exposing the truth. Abby's betrayal had shattered my world, but in taking control of the narrative, I reclaimed a piece of my dignity. In the months that followed, life took on a different rhythm. The dust from the scandal settled, but its effects lingered. Abby, now living with her parents, reached out occasionally, her messages filled with regret and pleas for forgiveness. But I couldn't bring myself to respond. For me, her betrayal was a bridge burned, leaving only ashes where trust and love once stood. Steve and Abby's brief affair dissolved as swiftly as it had been exposed. Their lives became separate cautionary tales, hers of shame and self-reflection, his of cowardice and avoidance. Neither had anticipated the sheer weight of their actions, nor the ripple effects it would have on everyone around them. For me, the road to healing was a mix of solitude and self-discovery. I threw myself into work, hobbies, and the support of my brother Tom, who stood by me throughout the ordeal. Though I carried the scars of what happened, I began to see the possibility of life beyond betrayal. Reflecting on the billboard, I questioned if I had gone too far. Publicly exposing Abby's infidelity had satisfied my anger but left collateral damage in its wake. Her humiliation spread not just to her but to Annie, who had done nothing to deserve the public spectacle. My apology to her was sincere, though I knew it could never fully erase the hurt. One day, while out for a walk, I met someone, a stranger with an easy smile and a calm presence. It wasn't love at first sight or some whirlwind romance, but it reminded me that there is life after heartbreak. Though I don't know what the future holds, I've learned that betrayal doesn't define you unless you let it. Forgiveness, of others and yourself, isn't about excusing the past, it's about letting go to make space for what's next. What would you have done in my place? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more thought-provoking stories like this. Thank you for listening.